So I have a question for you to start us off. When you think of the year 1847, the desolate Yorkshire moor, and Emily Bronte, what is the very first word or, I guess, image that pops into your head?
Bleak. Definitely bleak. Windswept, rain going sideways.
Right.
Probably tuberculosis, if we're being, historically accurate about the health standards of the time.
Exactly. You think of isolation. You think of a very specific, gritty, kind of dirty misery. You think of people shivering in these drafty stone houses. You do not, generally speaking, think of a distinct scent of like coconut oil, spray tan, and designer perfume.
No, that is definitely not in the source text. I'm pretty sure coconut oil was high in Hangworth.
But that is exactly where we find ourselves today. We are looking at a collision, a massive head-on crash between the Victorian Gothic, which is all about repressed trauma, and ghosts and mud.
Oh, the fun stuff.
And the modern Hollywood PR machine, which is all about aesthetics, algorithms, and looking hot on Instagram.
It is a fascinating wreck to look at, isn't it? We're deep diving today into the upcoming film adaptation of Wuthering Heights. And usually, when you adapt a classic, you expect some grumbling from the English majors and the purists.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, they cut chapter 4, or that bonnet is historically inaccurate for the period. Standard academic nitpicking.
But this isn't grumbling. This is a firestorm. This is the internet collectively picking up pitchforks.
It really is. The backlash has been visceral. And it's surprising because on paper, this project looks like it was, grown in a lab to be a guaranteed billion-dollar hit.
It should be a slam dunk.
Totally. You have Margot Robbie, who is arguably the most powerful woman in Hollywood right now, producing and starring. You have Jacob Elordi, who has essentially been crowned the king of Gen Z heartthrobs.
Right.
And you have Emerald Fennell directing, who is the darling of the provocative thriller genre right now.
It's the Avengers of cool girl cinema. It feels like they just took the buzzwords of the last 3 years and just threw them in a blender.
Yeah, it does. And yet the internet, and I'm quoting some of our sources here who have aggregated the general sentiment, is describing this production as, and I quote, wine mom porn slop.
Wine mom porn slop. That is evocative.
It's mean, but it paints a very clear picture.
It's brutal. They're also calling it a darker Bridgerton. And let's be clear, in literary circles, being called Bridgerton when you're trying to do Bronte is not a compliment.
No, not at all.
Bridgerton is great for what it is. It's candy, fantasy, bright colors. Bronte's the opposite. It implies you've taken something deep and complex and jagged, and you've just sanded it down into something smooth and consumable.
And one of the first sort of red flags that signaled this tonal shift was the music.
Ah, yes, the soundtrack announcement.
Charlie XCX for Wuthering Heights.
It's a choice.
I mean, I love Charlie XCX. Brat Summer was great. But for the brooding moors of the 19th century, the source material we're looking at calls this choice criminal. Well, it's a very specific signal, isn't it? It tells the audience, we aren't trying to transport you to the 1840s. We are bringing the 1840s to the club.
Yeah.
It suggests a modernization that prioritizes cool and pop culture relevance over historical or atmospheric accuracy. It's the first indicator that the film might be, as the critics say, out of touch with the soul of the book.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just here to gossip about a movie that hasn't even come out yet. We are trying to figure out why this reaction is so hostile.
Right.
We're going to look at the pornification of classic literature. We're going to talk about the BookTok industrial complex, which I honestly didn't realize was such a massive economic force until we started researching this.
Oh, it's huge. It shifts entire markets.
We have to talk about this incredibly strange marketing campaign that seems to be blurring the lines between acting and reality in a way that is making everyone, I think, very uncomfortable.
Right. Because the central question we have to answer is this. How do you take a story about abuse, about racism, classism, generational trauma, and try to rebrand it as a sexual fantasy? Why does Hollywood think that is a good idea?
So let's get into the weeds. Section 1, the adaptation and the age outrage. This seems to be the first domino that really fell.
It was. As soon as the casting was announced, the timeline just exploded. And to understand why, you have to understand the book. I know you said it's been a while, but do you remember the general sort of vibe of Catherine and Heathcliff's relationship in the novel?
It's toxic. It's obsessive. It's just two people who make each other and everyone around them mad.
Correct. But crucially, the timeline of that misery is in Bronte's novel, the core of the tragedy, the moments that define Heathcliff and Catherine, it all happens when they are children and jurors.
Right.
The bulk of the narrative drive takes place when they are between, say, 15 and 19 years old.
Okay, so they're kids. Which makes sense, right? Because they make terrible, impulsive, completely irrational decisions.
Precise cruelty, their obsession, their inability to regulate their emotions, all framed by their adolescence. Their frontal lobes aren't developed. They are traumatized kids acting out.
Right.
Heathcliff is a rough, dirty, stable boy who runs away and comes back. Catherine is this wild, petulant teenager who just doesn't understand the concept.
So that's the tech. That is the reality of this literary masterpiece. Now, let's look at the call sheet for the movie.
The Hollywood reality. Margot Robbie is 35.
Pushing 40, as some of the meaner tweets pointed out, which, by the way, 35 is young in the real world, but in the context of playing it.
It's a lifetime away. And Jacob Elordi is, now in a vacuum, those are fine. They're great actors. But when you apply them to this story, the dynamic just...
It completely falls apart. There was a tweet in our stack that I couldn't stop thinking about. Someone compared the casting to a 7-year-old boy dynamic.
Yeah, that analysis is spot on. The implication is that the behavior in the book is fundamentally childish. If you have a 16-year-old screaming, "I am Heathcliff," and running out into the storm because their feelings are hurt, it's tragic and melodramatic.
It fits the teenage brain.
It totally fits. But if you have a 35-year-old woman doing it...
It looks like Arrested Development. It looks like a meltdown in a grocery store. It completely changes the genre.
It does. It goes from tragedy of youth to, I don't know, midlife crisis. It makes the characters look less like victims of their environment and more like adults who just refuse to go to therapy.
So why do it? This is what I struggle with. Margot Robbie is a smart producer. She has to know the book. Why cast herself? Is it just ego?
Well, let's look at the Hollywood revisionism theory our sources put forward. There are two main angles here. Theory A is what they call the Queen Syndrome.
The Queen Syndrome.
Yeah. Margot Robbie is the producer. She has the power. The source suggests she is the queen of taking stories she wants to tell and putting herself in them.
To be fair, and playing devil's advocate here, if I had a production company and I had the money and I loved a character, I'd probably do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to be a cowboy today. Great. Greenlight the cowboy movie. Is that necessarily a bad thing?
In a business sense? No. It's smart. Having Margot Robbie on the poster secures the financing. A movie about two unknown teenagers, even if it's more accurate to the book, is a huge financial risk. A movie with Barbie is a safe bet. The investors are happy.
Okay, so that's the money argument. Star power puts butts in seats, but the sources suggest something a little darker. Theory B.
Theory B is the pornography argument. And this is a bit more cynical, but it tracks with the industry trends we're seeing.
Play it on.
The theory is that they deliberately aged up the characters specifically to facilitate sexual content.
Ah, because of the ratings.
And just ethics. Think about it. If you want to make a sexy, explicit 50 Shades of Grey style thriller, you cannot do that with actors who look. Even if you cast 18-year-olds to play 15, if you film explicit sex scenes, it feels exploitative, the audience gets weirded out, it feels predatory.
Right. You can't have steamy scenes with characters who are supposed to be children. That's not a blockbuster. That's a crime. Or at the very least, it's a very different kind of movie that doesn't get a wide release.
Exact. So the source argues that Hollywood said, okay, we want the brand name recognition of Wuthering Heights, but we want the content of an erotic thriller. So let's just cast adults. It's a defense mechanism. They aged them up so they could strip them down.
That is incredibly cynical. It implies they didn't want to adapt the story. They just wanted to use the IP, the brand name, to sell sex.
The Victorian 50 Shades of Grey, that's the phrase that keeps coming up in the saw.
Yeah.
And that is where the core conflict lies. The fans of the book want the tragedy of youth and the horror of the moor. The studio, it seems, wants the marketability of adult sex and a spice.
Which segues perfectly into how they are selling this thing. Because if your goal is sexy thriller, you need a marketing campaign that screams sex. And it really seems like the Wuthering Heights team looked at the box office results from December 2023 and found a very specific blueprint.
Oh, they absolutely did. You cannot talk about this movie without talking about the ghost of anyone but you.
The Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell movie. I mean, you couldn't open TikTok for 3 months without seeing them. It was completely inescapable.
It was a masterclass in a specific type of PR. The source calls it the anyone but you blueprint. The strategy is simple. Generate headlines by making the audience ask, are they doing it?
Are they? Aren't they?
Even though in that case, we knew they were in relationships. Sydney Sweeney was engaged. Glenn Powell had a girlfriend. But they played the part so well.
Oh, they were so good at it.
The gushing in interviews, the lingering eye contact, the whispering on the red carpet, that we all just collectively suspended our disbelief. We wanted to believe the fantasy.
And it worked, right? The movie made a ton of money.
It was a massive hit. And the movie itself, I mean, the source is pretty blunt. It was terrible. But we were all obsessed with the meta-narrative. We were watching the actors. We bought tickets to see if we could spot the chemistry in person.
So the Wuthering Heights team sees this and thinks, we'll have what they're having.
We're going to do the exact same. That is the theory. But, and here is the critical error, they decided to change the tone.
Right.
Anyone But You was a rom-com. It was light, flirty, fun. It was will they, won't they. For Wuthering Heights, they pivoted to dark.
Because it's gothic. You can't really do rom-com with Heathcliff. He's not a rom-com guy.
He's not, but dark obsession plays very differently in a press tour than flirty fun. Right. And we saw this launch with that Vogue Australia photo shoot. You've seen the photos.
Who hasn't? It's Margot Robbie, essentially nude, or in these, like, insane corset dresses draped all over Jacob Elordi.
Yeah.
Very intense.
And the headline wasn't adapting a classic. It was Pure Obsession, Cinema's Wild Romance. They are explicitly selling the idea that the actors themselves are consumed by this role and by each other.
There was that clip from the Roundtable interview where Jacob Elordi talks about a mutual obsession.
Yes, and this is a great example of how the PR machine spins things. If you watch the clip closely, as our source points out, Elordi sounds like he's talking about acting technique.
Yeah, he sounds like an actor.
He's saying, I'm obsessed with watching her work. He's doing the supportive co-star thing. He's talking about craft.
Right, he's saying, she's a legend, I'm just watching a masterclass.
But the PR team takes that soundbite, puts a dramatic, heavy beat underneath it, and suddenly the headline is, Jacob Elordi is obsessed with Margot Robbie. It feeds the beast.
But here is where it gets really interesting, and honestly, where the wheels start to fall off the wagon. Because with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, there was a certain plausibility, or maybe just a lack of messy baggage. But with Wuthering Heights, there is a massive elephant in the room.
A married elephant.
A married elephant who is also the boss.
Right. This is the ick factor that the source highlights as the point where the PR backfired. The key difference here is that Margot Robbie is not just vaguely attached. She is publicly, happily married to Tom Acker. They have a child. They are a known power couple in Hollywood.
And Tom isn't just, waiting at home with the baby.
No. Tom Ackerley is the executive producer of the film.
That is the detail that breaks my brain every single time. He is literally paying for the photo shoot where his wife is pretending to have a torrid, obsessive affair with a 28-year-old.
So just consider the dynamic for a second. You have Robbie and Elordi doing these nude shoots, talking about mutual obsession, acting out this torrid affair for the press, and the husband is there.
He's on set.
He is on set. He is financing the marketing that promotes this fake affair.
It adds this layer of just weirdness that people can't get past. The source mentions comments calling the husband our strongest soldier.
Which is internet slang for someone enduring a lot of indignity. People find the whole dynamic disrespectful and embarrassed. It breaks the immersion.
It completely does.
With Sweeney and Powell, you could fantasize that maybe they were falling in love. With Robbie and Elordi, you're just thinking, isn't her husband standing right behind the camera holding a coffee?
Hey, Tom, can you hold my robe while I pretend to be obsessed with Jacob?
No.
It's so awkward.
It creates a cognitive dissonance, and the press tour has been full of these specific cringy anecdotes that just heighten that awkwardness. It feels performative in a really bad way.
Let's run through a few of these because the source really breaks them down, and I think they illustrate the problem perfect. The Valentine's Day.
This one is classic PR spin gone wrong. So on Valentine's Day, while they were filming, Elordi filled Robbie's trailer with roses.
Okay, standard romantic lead behavior. Very Hollywood. Nothing to see here.
And he left a note signed as Heathcliff on a little tombstone.
Nothing says romance like a grave mark.
Well, it is Wuthering Heights. Necromancy is, part of the vibe. But here is the kicker. Robbie's reaction. She told Vogue, "You definitely..."
You beat me.
Implying that his gift was better than anything else she received. Presumably better than what her husband gave her for Valentine's Day.
Oh, no.
And remember, she is saying this in an interview designed to sell the movie. But to the audience, it just sounds like she is prioritizing the fake relationship over the real one. It feels like a line written by a publicist that just did not land.
Not at all. Then there was the rain machine moment. I feel like this one went viral for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, this scene is a rehearsal. They are testing rain machine. The water starts falling, and Elordi shields Robbie's face.
Chivalry, right? A sweet moment.
That's how they spun it. Robbie and the director, Emerald Fennell, claimed it was the most romantic thing I have ever experienced.
The most romantic thing ever in her entire life.
That is the quote. And the source's reaction perfectly captures the general sentiment. It was just, ma'am, you have a whole husband. Cut the camera.
It just feels so hyperbolic. It feels forced. Like they are trying so hard to convince us that the chemistry is electric that they are just overcompensating.
And then you had the leering comment. Robbie described Elordi standing around her on set, making her feel unnerved and unmoored. She said she felt codependent, like a kid without their blanket.
See, hearing that, it just sounds unsettling. That doesn't sound romantic.
Exactly. It crosses the line from passionate co-stars to weird psychological game. And when you combine that with the fact that her husband is the producer, the whole thing just feels like a very expensive, very awkward piece of performance art that nobody asked for.
And the worst part of it all, the source argues that despite all this effort, despite the roses and the rain machines and the nude photo shoots, the chemistry just isn't there.
The chemistry vac, that is section 4 of our deep dive.
The source is brutal about that. They argue that if you actually look at the footage, specifically from the premiere, the reality does not match the headline.
The visual description of the premiere is quite telling. You have Margot Robbie in these uncomfortable high fashions and Elordi.
Well, the source says he looks like he just got ripped into by his girlfriend.
That is a very specific look. The I'm in trouble face. We all know that face.
It's the trapped look. He looks miserable. He looks like he wants to go home.
And there might be a reason for that. Beyond just being tired of the press tour, we have to talk about the Olivia Jade factor.
Right. Jacob Elordi has been in an on-again, off-again relationship with Olivia Jade, who is Lori Loughlin's daughter.
College admissions scandal.
The very same. Now, there is a lot of speculation in the source that this PR stunt, this fake affair strategy, is causing real-life friction in his actual relationship, which would explain why he looks so miserable at the premiere. If your girlfriend is mad at you because your job is to pretend to be obsessed with Margot Robbie for a marketing campaign, you're probably not going to be smiling on the red carpet.
Exactly. It breaks the illusion. PR stunts rely on the audience believing, even just a little bit, that the spark is real. But when one party looks miserable and the other is married to the producer, the audience just sees the machinery.
And they see the desperation.
Yes. It feels like they are trying to manufacture chemistry that simply isn't present on. And chemistry is the one thing you can't fake no matter how much money you throw at it.
So we have a casting controversy, we have a failed PR strategy, we have a chemistry vacuum, but the source argues that the problem goes even deeper. It's not just about this one movie, it's about what this movie represents for literature as a whole.
Section 5. The pornification of literature. This is where we get into the cultural.
And we have to talk about the director, Emerald Fennell. She is a very specific kind of filmmaker.
She is. She is the director behind Saltburn and Promising Young Woman. And if you have seen Saltburn, you know it is famous, or maybe infamous, for its shock value.
The bathtub drain scene, the grave scene. I don't think we need to go to graphic detail, but if you know, you know.
We don't. But the point is, she has a reputation for provocative, sexually charged, often grotesque imagery. She likes to make the audience squirm.
And it seems like she is bringing that exact same energy to Wuthering Heights.
There is a quote from her mentioned in the source that is really telling. When asked about her vision for Wuthering Heights, Fennell allegedly said the first visual she had was something happens on a rock.
Something happens on a rock.
That was her starting. Not the themes of isolation, not the cycle of blues, but a sexual encounter on a rock.
The source argues that this just reduces a complex literary work to a sexual fantasy.
It does. It strips away all the nuance. Wuthering Heights is a gothic mess. It deals with classism, mental illness, generational trauma. The romance in it is toxic. It is dark. It is not meant to be as.
But the modern Hollywood rewrite seems to be, let's take the toxic guys, make them hot, and focus solely on the sexual tension.
And the source links this directly to the influence of BookTok.
BookTok, the TikTok book community.
Now, BookTok has done amazing things for reading. It has revitalized the publishing industry. It has made reading cool again. We can't deny that.
Absolutely. More people reading is always a good thing.
But the source argues it has also created a smut obsession. Or, more specifically, it has changed how books are marketed and consumed.
The idea that classic literature is being reinterpreted purely through a lens of smut or pornography.
Exactly. Readers, and by extension studios, are looking for the spice rating rather than the literary merit. You know, how many Chili Peppers get. They want the aesthetic of the Gothic, the castles, the rain, the brooding men, but they want the content of a steamy romance novel.
There is this incredible anecdote in the source about a bookstore in Nashville that really brings this home for me.
Yes. A new smut bookshop opened.
A smut bookshop. That's a bold branding choice. I respect it.
And in January, in the freezing cold, there was a line of women wrapped around the block waiting over an hour just to get in.
Just to buy books they could probably get on Amazon with 2 clicks.
Exactly. The source uses this to prove a point. There is a massive market for this porn-brained content. Hollywood isn't operating in a vacuum. They aren't stupid. They are looking at those lines in Nashville and saying, how do we sell?
So Wuthering Heights becomes a product for that market. It stops being an adaptation of Bronte and starts being content for the smut bookshop demographic.
It's the commodification of the aesthetic. They're stripping the text of its difficult, thorny, unsexy parts, the parts that actually make it literature, and keeping the vibe.
But here is the irony. This is section 6. the cultural disc. Is Hollywood actually misreading the room?
Because the source brings up a UCLA study that says something very surprising.
I saw this. It completely contradicts the sex sells mantra that has driven Hollywood for decades.
The study states that young people, specifically Gen Z, actually want less sex on, not more.
Wait, really? Because the stereotype is that youth equals horny. We just assume that teenagers want to see explicit content.
That is the Hollywood assumption. The executives think kids these days, they have the internet, they want everything explicit. But the data suggests that the younger generation is actually tired of gratuitous sex. They find them unnecessary, they find them cringe.
They want plot. They want character development. They don't necessarily want softcore porn shoehorned into their movies.
Right. They are saying, if it doesn't serve the story, cut it. So Hollywood is pivoting to pornification right at the exact moment when the target audience is saying, we're good, thanks.
It's a massive disconnect. The source argues that Emerald Fennell and the producers are catering to a perceived desire that might not actually exist in the way they think it does. They are chasing a trend that is already dying.
There is this quote in the source that sums it all up perfectly. Emily Bronte wrote Longing and Grief. Emerald Fennell heard, let's traumatize everyone aesthetically.
Trauma aesthetics. That is a powerful phrase.
It is. It means using the look of trauma, the dark lighting, the crying, the intensity, the bruised eye, but stripping it of its meaning and just using it to make some edgy and sick.
It's styling over substance. All style.
And that seems to be the final verdict on the film from our source.
Yeah.
It is being viewed not as a faithful adaptation, but as a Victorian porn vehicle for Margot Robbie.
Scored by pop music, stripped of deeper meaning.
It's tragic, in a way. Not in the Bronte sense, but in the artistic sense.
It is, because Wuthering Heights is a story that deserves to be told. It has so much to say about human nature, about how we hurt the people we love, about how damage travels down through generations. But if you bury all of that under PR stunts and sex on a rock, you lose the story completely.
You turn it into content. Just another piece of content to scroll past on your phone.
So let's recap the journey we've just taken. We started with a beloved 19th century masterpiece. We watched it get picked up by the modern Hollywood machine.
We saw the casting of adults to play teenagers, seemingly to allow for more explicit content and to capitalize on established star power.
We saw a PR strategy ripped from Anyone But You, trying to sell a fake obsession between a married woman and her younger co-star, while her husband literally pays the bill.
We saw the ick factor of the press tour, the tombstones, the rain machine, and the resulting chemistry vacuum on the red carpet.
We explored the director's vision, which seems to prioritize shock value and aesthetic over the source material's actual themes.
And we connected it all to the broader BookTok trend of commodifying literature as smut, even as data suggests audiences might be moving away from.
It is a perfect storm of bad decisions, misunderstood audiences, and cynical marketing.
But it raises a huge question. Why does this matter? I mean, why should we care if Hollywood ruins one more book? They do it all the time.
Because it's not just about one book. It's about the commodification of art. It's about the danger of stripping the soul out of a story just to generate TikTok clips.
Right. When you take a work of art that explores the darkest corners of the human experience and you turn it into a wine mom fantasy, you aren't just making a bad movie. You are actively eroding the legacy of the author. You are telling the audience that the vibes matter more than the substance. You are teaching a generation that Wuthering Heights is just a sexy story about hot people in the mud.
And that is a dangerous precedent. It lowers the bar for literacy, lowers the bar for art.
It is.
So here is the final thought I want to leave you. We've talked a lot about the backlash. We've talked about the ick. But let's play devil's advocate for just a second.
Go on.
If Hollywood ignores the actual themes of classic literature in favor of manufacturing fake affairs and sex on rocks, are they ruining the legacy of these authors? Or is this simply the only way to get people to pay attention to old books in 2026?
That is the provocative question, isn't it? Is pornification the price of relevance?
Would millions of people be talking about Emily Bronte right now if it weren't for this disaster? I mean, probably not. The book sales are probably going up.
That is a painful truth. We are talking about it right now.
And ask yourself this. When this movie comes out, are you going to watch it? Be honest. Are you going to watch it for the plot? Or are you going to watch it just to see if the chemistry is as fake as the internet says? Just to see the train wreck?
I think we both know the answer to that. I'm buying it.
I think we do. And maybe, just maybe, that means the PR strategy worked after all.
That is a terrifying.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.